Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Cooper. Hopefully you're all staying safe, keeping your family safe and healthy, and getting through during these crazy-ass times we're dealing with COVID-19. A lot of topics we're going to touch on today with Jesse James, the representative from the 68th District of the great state of Wisconsin. He will join us on episode 53 in just a bit. But first, a thanks to our sponsors, Midwest Meals and MidwestMeals.com. Still open, still delivering nationwide. They have 13 rotating meals. They're all delicious. They all have the macros on them, so you're getting the counts that you need to try to stay healthy during all of this. I know everything is out of whack. At least try to keep the meal prep on point. Midwest Meals will take care of you. MidwestMeals.com is the website. The promo code is Cooper at checkout for 10% off your first order. Get it in by Friday. They ship nationwide on Mondays. And if you're local, of course, you can go and pick up at their store there in the East Ridge. Also brought to you by Violent Gentlemen Hockey Club. Enforce social distancing. Check out that line online at violentgentlemen.com. Promo code Cooperville15. You get 15% off that order at violentgentlemen.com. They get all sorts of cool stuff. If you're missing the hockey because the season got cut short due to COVID-19, well, you can still wear your gear with pride and wear it with attitude with Violent Gentlemen. violentgentlemen.com. And Monster Energy Rain Body Fuel. Where would I be without you both? It's tough to say because that is what gets me through the afternoons and sometimes some late evenings as, nobody's living a life of routine right now. It's all kind of out of whack and we're trying to do the best we can. Little bit of Monster Ultra Zero. That's what helps me through the afternoon. Rain Body Fuel, of course, for that pre-workout goodness. You got to get on it. Find it at your local grocer and convenience store. They're still open. Get them. Enjoy them. Hashtag Monster Podcasts. As promised, my longtime friend and current representative of the 68th District of the great state of Wisconsin, Mr. Jesse James, is on the podcast. We cover so many topics in this one. It's fantastic. A lot of education, a lot of things learned, and since we're all going through the same stuff, he's got some great pointers and great insight as to what's going on down in Madison with the state, and also, I think can be applied nationwide. We're all kind of going through it at the same time. Jesse James, my guest on episode 53 of the Welcome to Cooperville podcast. It starts right now.
Welcome to Cooperville. The Welcome to Cooperville podcast. Subscribe, get updates, feel better about your life. Welcome to Cooperville.com. Check. Welcome to Cooperville. Make sure you use a coaster.
It is the Welcome to Cooperville podcast. It is episode number 53, joined by Jesse James, not the outlaw, not the fine purveyor of whiskey and rock and roll, but Assemblyman Jesse James. How you doing, my friend?
Very well. Thanks, Cooper. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you on. Jesse and I go back several years now from the sprawling metropolis of Altoona, Wisconsin. He used to stand outside of my kid's school and make sure that the younglets got in safely with the fire department as the chief and kind of made the pivot several years back to going to politics.
Yeah, it's been a quick ride so far.
Now, I didn't know you before. You were already kind of the chief of everything when I moved here. Well, it's been almost 10 years, I think. But when we started to get to know each other, obviously you were in that position. But before that, what was kind of your rise to getting into police, fire? Like, were you I look at my kid and I see him at now 10 years old, and I'm like some sort of computer genius. Like, he'll be helping me figure out how the next wave of digital things work. So it seems like from a young age he has some sort of direction. Now, I think we all know that at some point that can be derailed. I think that's called the teenage years, and things can take a turn. Hey, I was dead set on going to Notre Dame and playing football when I was his age. That didn't quite work out as expected at that time. But was being a part of kind of the emergency response, was that something that you recall from a young age being something that you wanted to pursue?
No, actually, I wanted to be a garbage man.
Oh. Same, a service in the service industry. You wanted to help serve the people.
Absolutely. I think it was after my time in the Army,
Mm-hmm.
and when I became a reservist, I was trained in the medical field, and I think that's where my passion grew in trying to learn more about the medical portion of serving people and helping them get better.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there's some challenges in my youth years, my young adult years, with some law issues and stuff. And I was actually told that I was a loser and that I would never amount to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, my son was coming to this world, and I had to make a decision on what was I going to do. And I wanted to have a position that would provide health benefits, retirement plan, looking towards the future. So I decided to pursue law enforcement. And with the medical background already, and then the law enforcement training that I went through, I was blessed to get a position as a cop. Started my career in Spring Valley and moved on to Elmwood and Altoona. So all three of those agencies I worked for at one point in time. And that was around September 2001 is when I finally started with Altoona.
Mm-hmm.
And then December of 2002, I was offered a full-time position with Altoona, and I graciously accepted that position. And that's what started my law enforcement career. At that point, October of 13, as I rose through the ranks of the Altoona Police Department, is when I became the chief.
Mm-hmm.
And that took on the fire and EMS portion, as well as the police side of things. So that's when everything really took off education-wise,
right.
Becoming the fire chief in EMS world and just serving. And, that's still where my heart is today. I still have some law enforcement going on, and I still have a passion to serve in the EMS capacity, responding to the medical service calls. So it's still a part of me today.
I want to talk about, being in Altoona, because I spent time here as a youth. Like I moved a lot when I was a kid, but always in Wisconsin. But I remember spending several years here at a very young age, and always, Eau Claire was always like the place. Like nobody was like, oh, Altoona is not like the destination. Like it's not like you're not coming here to hang out. But it seems like, and you were a part of this and got to witness it from, a law enforcement perspective. But over the last, even longer than a decade, this town has gone from, kind of a small suburb of semi-metropolitan area, I guess, if you want to classify Eau Claire as that, to kind of this extremely rapid growth rate, a lot of construction, a lot of industry, a lot of additions in the medical field, a lot of additions in, the whole River Prairie development that went in and was built up over the last several years. I mean, I remember driving that road that you could take out into the town of Seymour, past the old Quick Trip, like eons ago, and it was, there was nothing out there. And now you have this budding community, and obviously there's even through all this that we're going through right now, there's continuing development that's happening here, and there's businesses that are coming in to this area. First part of the question would be, from a law enforcement perspective, when you were, in that position, what is that kind of transition like? Because it does seem like it was rapid from kind of a real small community to kind of, a budding epicenter of a lot of things that are going on.
Yeah, I joked a lot with city officials about River Prairie and said the only thing that doesn't have out there is its own zip code, because it's really a city inside of a city. Right. If you think about it, it's its own entity. And, when you have that kind of growth and development that's happening in Altoona, there's a lot of good that comes with it, but then there's also some bad as well. And the time that I spent in the public safety world within the city of Altoona, the elected officials and our city administrator, the mayor, they did a decent job looking at the impacts of the growth and development and the calls for service that increased, and being able to adapt to that dramatic change. And I mean, it's still going on. And I'm not saying it was all glorious,
right,
but there was growing pains involved in it. And, hopefully, obviously I've been out of the chief world for a little while, and I'm pleased with what I've been seeing with the additional, being at full capacity within the law enforcement agency, and Chief Renderman with the fire department has done a phenomenal job with the growth there. And, we're adjusting and constantly adapting to the growing that's taking place in the city of Altoona. And I applaud the efforts, because you have to have that vision and foresight moving forward.
Yeah.
And taking care of your people. It's about serving the community. I mean, the taxpayers are the ones that pay their dues to provide the services that the city of Altoona offers. And we have a duty to provide the best services to our citizens. And I know that's a huge part of the mission of the city of Altoona. And I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, it seems like and I reckon too, when the new school went up, the new elementary school went up, and location's always going to be a question mark when you're dealing with a city that sits the way it sits. There's not like an ideal spot, but to have it out where the location of the school is, and have it not really be fully accessible for bikes, and for really safe school walking distance for kids that could walk out to the school out there, having to either walk along the railroad tracks, which isn't a good idea. Kids, don't do that.
No, please don't.
I had to make sure to tell my son, repeatedly after driving him to school, I'm like, don't go that way. Whatever happens, like that's bad. But it did seem like, within the course of a year to 2 years that problem was taken care of. So it seems like some of the issues that I know you and I have discussed, that I think we even discussed that very issue at one point, standing outside of the school. But the response was that issue was taken care of, and the road was redone, and obviously the paths out there. And I can't, as a runner, I can't say enough about how if you're into being outdoors and walking or running or biking. I mean, this city has done an amazing job of a trail system that really can take you to some beautiful spots. So a lot of the things that have been addressed or have been brought up, seemingly they're tended to, which I guess is a vote of confidence for those who are making those kind of decisions.
Yeah, agreed 100%. Yeah. And the partnership with our local railroad, Union Pacific, is instrumental in providing the safety security for the students out at the new elementary school, and continuously working with them and improving whatever efforts we can, such as creating municipal ordinance to try and educate and prevent those that were using the rail as a quicker way to get down to the beach.
Right.
There's a lot of automated processes that goes on in that rail yard, and a lot of people don't understand that it's literally remote controlled trains. Yeah. And they can move things at a moment's notice, and we definitely didn't want our public, adults and kids alike, getting hurt. Plus the shifting of the tracks, the movement. I mean, there's literally been people in other areas that have had their feet and legs broken because they're caught in between the tracks when they start to move. So
right.
that we just have to, it's about the safety and security of our community.
So you're sitting there as the fire chief of police, city of Altoona, budding community. I think at one point I thought I read a statistic. It was the top, if not the top one, it was in the top 3 of fastest growing regions in the state. I mean, it was growing at a clip, and so you have this dual position. Like, what are you sitting at home one day and you're going, all this responsibility is great, but you know what I would like more. I think that, maybe having a little less free time, but maybe having more of an impact is something I would like to pursue. Like, how does the decision-making process go from leading the safety services of a budding community to, stepping into the political arena?
Oh, that's a good question. And one that I have no hesitation in sharing. This journey literally began January of 2000 for me. My first visit to the state capitol in Madison was one that I'll never forget. And when I entered the rotunda, a little voice inside my head said, "One day you will be here." And that grew with me as time progressed. And my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, I shared this story with her. And then time took its toll. And even my boss, Mike Golot, knew that this was part of a future dream of mine, because he asked, where do you see yourself in so many years? And he knew that one day that this was something that I was going to pursue. So March of 2018, when Senator Terry Moulton announced his retirement, and a few hours later, Kathy Bernier announced that she was running for his Senate seat, that opened up the 68th Assembly District. And at that point, a lot of quiet time and prayer and foundational growing of the foundation itself. We needed to see if it was something that would be feasible and possible. And sure enough, things just started falling into place. And I thought, well, now is the time to do it. And it was pretty clear and convincing that it was the perfect time. And we went for it. And obviously the people believed in me, and the relationships that I've developed through the 68th Assembly District have been amazing prior to even announcing that I was going to run. So it was an exciting time, something brand new, and it truly is about, this position is about serving the people. So it's not so much arresting them and having the negative contacts or the educational purposes that are available through the public safety world. The same is available in this world. Right. There is a lot of correlation into this position, and I just don't take anybody to jail. In fact, I think I'm more subjected to things like the profanity and threats, and because I received them already within my office. And it's a little more scary being in this role than it was being the chief. So people get really heated about the term politics. Right. So but it's about public servant. I look at myself as a servant, and any way that I can help people, that's the way I look at this opportunity, and I'm taking advantage of it.
I remember chatting with you as you were going through the campaign process, and knowing that's a whole different arena outside of the day-to-day that you deal with now as an elected official. By the way, my kid still has not to this day allowed us to throw away your campaign sign. It's in his room still.
Grayson's the best.
To
I
this
love
day.
That kid.
I'm like, I love Jesse. We're like neighbors, like 3-4 houses that direction. But I'm like, I'm sure he'll have new ones. We could, probably.
Absolutely.
No, that thing has stayed. Like we've
I
had
love it.
we use it as a bartering tool. Sometimes we're like, hey, well, you could get rid of this old toy, you know, we could donate this, or get rid of this toy. I don't even like this toy anymore. So it holds clout with him. So he's pretty excited. But so you go through the campaign process and win and end up in Madison. What is the, you know, you kind of talked about how heated people can get just simply by the word politician and politics. I think it seems like maybe, I don't want to say now more than ever, because I'm sure 1776 was probably an iffy time to be a political leader and having to make choices for a new country. But it's a strange time to be in politics. But some of the things you've had to deal with are unlike any other that many have had to deal with. I mean, even us as citizens are currently obviously dealing with some stuff. But you know, for you going through being in Madison, having a voice, being able to be the voice of the people of the 68th, you know, what are some of the challenges on the day-to-day that you face in trying to? I was watching a YouTube video, or a video that you put out on Facebook the other day, that, you know, a lot of this is about our future and our children's future and our grandchildren's future, and what does this area, this state look like in X amount of years? But I imagine that you face daily challenges, even now not being able to be in Madison. But when you were down there, is every day kind of is there ever a coast day? Do you get like today's going to be good, we're just going to get up and do the thing, and then we're going to be done, then we're going to have some dinner, and then is there any days like that, or is it all like, oh, this today?
Well, it's very similar to going to work in the public safety world. Mm-hmm. You never know what to expect.
Right.
And you have, you know, the planned events that take place. And I'm going to speak more towards the Madison when I'm down there. Mm-hmm. It's just constant. You literally, myself going down there, you can put in 10, 12-hour days easily with the hearings that go on. It's just constant learning. And there's things that can happen at a moment's notice, and you're adjusting your schedule. There's meetings that can come in at the last minute, and you're trying to multitask so much where you can be up in a hearing, and then you have constituents down in your office that want to see you and talk with you. So you're walking out of the hearings to go to meet with the people. Anybody that comes down to Madison from the Chippewa Valley, it is my goal that if they're taking the time to come and talk with me and I'm in Madison, I will be there and I will take the time out. I will leave the hearings, and you miss important information in the hearings, but you have to weigh it. And the people that are traveling the 3 hours to come to talk with me about issues in our area, I will take the time. I will make the time to see them. I think that's critically important as a new legislator. And just the learning process, it is such a learning curve, and literally drinking from the fire hose, and they're just nonstop action. I mean, you can make it what you want to make it. You can be as busy as you want to be. And that's why, I mean, it's a blink of an eye, and I can't believe that the time has gone by this fast already. And with that much, like a blink of an eye. And that just tells me that I'm having a blast. Right. I'm having a blast doing this. I have a blast learning, because you're never done. I have a blast helping the people and bringing their bills forward to and making it into legislation and passing it into law. That's what it's about. And that's what I love doing. And I purposely tie names to all of these bills because that helps me remember as a legislator, because everybody can say, oh, well, you have Assembly Bill 443 out there. And I'm like, okay, can you refresh my memory? Because I don't really know what that is. So I have to tie something to it. And I've always done that my whole life with my kids' soccer team. I'd always come up with nicknames, stuff like that, because that helps me remember things. And when I tie names to it, it makes it more personal, because that's your tie to your people back at home when you're down in Madison creating this legislation and then getting it to the assembly floor. passing it, getting it over to the Senate, hopefully passing it, and then getting it to the governor's desk for a signature. So that's the ultimate goal. And that's what brings me glory and satisfaction, because I think that's one of the criteria that can be used to evaluate my work as their representative in Madison and being their voice.
I think we all came into 2020 expecting, every time there's a new year, you always have expectations, whatever your thoughts about the previous year was, if it was highly successful, if it brought new challenges, anytime you go through the new year changes over, you're like, well, this is the year. And anytime you add that and an election year from a country standpoint, and everybody knew this one was going to be kind of wild, and everybody was preparing. I think we started to get some of the early glimpses of the vibe that was going to be in the political field on a national level early on in 2020. Nobody expected 2020 to be what 2020 is, and it has been. It's a weird time to be alive when we really have done. One major thing has happened, is that the entire world is on this level playing field right now. Any walk of life, any social status, any how much money anybody makes, it feels like everybody's kind of on this. We're all kind of stuck together. And when the COVID-19 thing started, and it was kind of a tertiary thing, it was kind of on the outside, and we were like, oh well, something crazy happened overseas. Like, that's pretty normal. We're used to seeing crazy things happen overseas, and kind of looking at it from afar. And then when it started to trickle into the States, and it became it was weird, because it did what a lot of other big things do, is it was overseas, and it was like, oh, and then it was on the coast, and we're Midwesterners, we're like, oh, it's on the coast, or it's on the East Coast, or it's on the, we kind of feel like we're in our own little secluded bubble here with a lot of things, just because we're a different breed. We can survive really anything. Give us 60 below wind chills, we're like, okay, I guess add another layer, and we'll go outside and shovel or snow blow, and we kind of roll with things. But when it started to really infiltrate on a global scale and really hit home, when they started closing down the schools and small businesses and businesses in general, it really became a weird time. And every day you'd wake up and things would change nationally, things would change locally, which you couldn't do would change from here. From you, and I'll talk to husband and dad Jesse. What were your first thoughts as a dad, as a husband, when your family has to go through these things, when the kids can't go to school and can't see their friends, and no after school activities, when you, even though spending time in Madison but also spending time at home, you don't have that outlet, and you're not going down to work. What was kind of one of the major adjustments that you guys had to make, or what was that time like for you from the dad husband chair when this first thing kind of took full effect?
There's a lot of times when I'll wake up in the morning thinking, am I really in the twilight zone? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to process and say, is this really real right now? Is this really what we're going through? And because our quote unquote normal was taken away from us. Yeah. And I think the biggest battle was with the extreme limitations and restrictions of what we could and could not do, and trying to adapt to the new normal that exists today. Mm-hmm. It comes with hurdles. You try and feel things out, try to do the best that you can with your children. Well, we have our one Allison, and getting her through the virtual meetings and education that's online now. And I'm not a technology guy by any means, so thank God my wife's with me. I think that was planned on purpose, because she helps her get the school stuff, and then the tests that we're doing. I mean, basically we're homeschooling our kids, and that's the new normal. And being, that you want to look out for the health and safety of your entire family, because I have a daughter. My oldest daughter is pregnant right now, and our first granddaughter should be here around May 14th, sooner, give or take a week or days or whatever.
Right.
And then making sure that we're keeping her healthy and her family and her husband healthy. And then, because we'd have family dinners on Sunday nights, and, we put a kibosh to those in the beginning. I think in our opinion, as a family, I think my wife and my daughter had ended up having this COVID-19, and I would love them to go and get that test that says that they did have it, because we traveled to Texas and then came back up through Chicago when the Chicago was happening. The cases were happening there. So it's been a real eye opener in trying to just backtrack and understand what we need to do as human beings, and really battle this virus that's taken everybody out, and forcing decisions that people aren't always going to agree with 100%. There's never ever going to be a decision that's made regardless that's going to satisfy everybody, and sometimes we have to make those tough decisions. I also have my mom lives with us, so her health conditions also impact the family and who comes over. If the kids come over and they're working, some of the kids, they're still working and exposed to public, and so we have to protect our own homes and make sure that everybody is protected, and we try and limit any kind of contamination spread of this virus. So there's some hard, difficult decisions. It really sucks to say, kids, no, don't come over. And what do you do? I mean, we have these times with our family. I mean, our time here is so short, and I think this is just going to reprioritize things in people's lives, and realizing how much family means to them, and how exciting it will be to be able to get back to those Sunday night family dinners where my table's full with all my kids, and we're laughing and joking, and having some sarcastic conversations and picking on each other, just having fun again, because right now is not so much fun.
Yeah, I think there's it really, even things that you didn't do on a normal basis, things that I didn't do on a normal basis, we didn't really go out a whole lot, and let's go grab a beer, or let's go out to dinner once in a while and stuff. But obviously I've been big into the concert and music arena for 2 decades, when I was in radio, and even now outside of radio. So I see the effect that it's had on venues and on musicians, and really behind the people behind the screen of the musicians, all the crews that go, and all the techs, and all the truck drivers, and all the bus drivers, and so that arena, and concerts being canceled, and from the dad standpoint, having to, like you said, basically learn how to homeschool in an ever-changing homeschool arena, because it seems like even Altoona's done a great job. I mean, I've talked to parents from other communities, and some are really behind the curve, some are doing it in what to me would seem like a more challenging way, but it seems like Altoona and the school district has done a great job of the best that you can do given the circumstances of getting some curriculum out, but I mean, I have a hyperactive 10-year-old who knows the tech, and knows and has a YouTube channel, and is into crazy things, and so it's much more of a challenge to to try to keep them focused. Where I think when they're in an environment where, okay, they know they're in the safety of school and they have their peers around them and the teacher's kind of, in charge. I give so much credit to I mean, I know I was a pain in the ass when I was a kid growing up, but man, I have one at home and I'm trying to teach him and I'm like a classroom of 18 to 20. I don't know. Give them all the monies, man. That's all I'm saying. Give them all the monies. But it's been every day an adjustment, I think. And for me as a small business owner, as somebody who basically I operate 2 podcasts, I have my company, and it's all based out of home. The challenge has been more than just adding those other elements in there. So yeah, there's a lot of weird, challenging times that I do wake up and I say the exact same words, and I've said those words on this podcast. I'm like, it feels like every day is a different episode of The Twilight Zone. And you can't, today my son wanted to go and spend some of his birthday money at Fleet Farm. I don't know. And, having to check out, okay, what are the regulations? Can he go in? Does he have to wear a mask? Do I have to wear a mask? What do we have to do in order to just go into the store for one simple object? I was at Menards over the weekend, and if you have ever watched a zombie apocalypse movie, it feels like that's what it looks like, or a movie about an outbreak. I mean, it's mandatory masks. There's no kids there. It's grocery stores are the same way. I know Woodman's just implemented some new regulations as far as one person per household going in. So all the things that we just did every day, wake up, take the kid to school, do whatever, go to the store, run and grab a bite to eat, grab lunch with a friend. When all those things are gone, man, you're like, man, I really didn't realize I missed going and sitting down and having a burger, for lunch and or going out. You're like, oh, well, there's a concert. Well, I don't know if I want to go. Now you're like, I would give anything to pay way too much money for a beer at a concert right now at this point, because, everybody's getting to that. What are we 6 weeks in now? 5 or 6 weeks into the safer at home order. It's you can kind of tell it's taking a toll on people's psyche, but there's so many different branches from this I want to kind of lead off into. I'll start with when you do have an order, the stay-at-home order that's in effect right now, and you have individuals who are used to being at work, being apart from their spouse every day, being apart from their kids every day, coming home. I mean, the routine of the day is not 24 hours minus sleep of all being together in the same house. Have you seen or heard? I know there was a report that came out that was something like the domestic violence cases were actually down in the state, but I've also and I had a conversation with somebody about that too, and I said I'm not sure I buy into those statistics, because you have now not an opportunity for a case to be reported. You don't have that, okay, he's at work, or I have time away. Now you're just kind of trapped. It feels like a lot of the underlying issues of maybe a relationship or a stay-at-home, a family that now has to stay at home, it feels like it's iffy out there at best in some situations.
Yeah. Locally, I've heard that the domestics haven't increased at all, which is surprising. It will be interesting to see the statistics and anything subject to open record requests. So right. At any time, people can request that information. I think the thing that concerns me is those people that don't have, the people that are restricted and limited to what they can do and not using the resources available because of their normal schedule being impacted by this, and the mental health and the suicide rate is what's concerning to me. Yeah, I had heard a statistic that suicide calls to the hotlines are up over 800% in our state. Wow. I heard that now there's actually the rate of suicide could potentially pass the rate of the COVID-19 deaths here soon. So that's very concerning for me.
Yeah.
And to get those people the resources and the help, and for them to realize that you are not restricted or limited to reaching out for that help. And I've encouraged people on Facebook Live and stuff. I've given out my phone number and said, if anybody needs help, call me. I don't care what it is. Even if you just want to talk and vent and scream, yell profanities, and tell me where to go, which has happened numerous times.
Yeah.
It's just part of the job. I can tell I've been sworn at more as a politician than I ever was in law enforcement. So
that's saying something, man. That is a surprisingly bold statement, but
it is, and just the meanness. But I think the domestics, it'll be interesting to see that statistic once everything settles down and restrictions are lifted, and these we have our freedom back. It's just the other things involved. The ripple effect of this is going to go way beyond, because you're talking the impact on our kids, you're talking about the impact on adults, and you're talking about the impact on the elderly, and the overall impact on families when they can't go see their loved ones in the nursing homes and the assisted living facilities, and the restrictions imposed there. And I totally support that. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Those that are part of the vulnerable populations need to be taken care of, and we need to take that part serious. But just all the other things, and it truly is startling. And I know the resources are available to those that are hurting. I just wish that people would take advantage of them. And that's where we as human beings, again, we need to say something. If we see something, we need to say something, and we need to act on it. And we need to be that person, even if we feel totally uncomfortable, to do something about it and get that person the help that they need. If you don't feel comfortable being that person, then contact somebody that is comfortable in doing it, and let's get the help to those people that are suffering.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of underlying mental health. Obviously, you're an advocate and have been for a very long time. But it's not. I don't say it's something that wasn't thought about. But I think you have those who have suicidal tendencies or have those thoughts, and now they're in seclusion, and maybe they live alone, or even if they don't, that's obviously a mental health issue that you could be in a house full of people and it could still be something that affects you. I think people that have dealt with addiction or overcoming addiction, not having the resources, the resources, like I think, like you mentioned, I mean, they're there, but they're not there, I think, when how they are accustomed to being there, whether that's AA or whether that's, group counseling or one-on-one counseling, so when those things aren't available, especially for somebody, people who are recovering addicts, it's a tougher pivot, I think, because it takes away a routine and something that's like, okay, I know I can go to this meeting. I know I can go to this individual one-on-one, be face-to-face. If they're looking at me and I'm looking them in the eye, I know that I'm going to be able to make it through that day and not fall off my path. So, a lot of these, we're going to see a lot of these statistics come out after we're kind of all let out of the gate here. And it's going to be a real, hopefully, beneficial eye-opener for some more change to be made and some more resources to be made available, and shine a spotlight on some of those issues that kind of get brought up here once in a while. And then they, at least in the mass media or social media, their really big spotlight is shined on them, and then all of a sudden it goes away for a while. Hopefully, this can be something that can bring some more light to that. Now there's that aspect of it, and there's obviously and now I think going through it personally and knowing that many people are going through this right now, and that's the economics of the stay-at-home order because of COVID-19. and it is a very tough, fine line. And I don't know if there, I don't think that there is necessarily the perfect remedy. I don't think that there's not one thing, and you know this from not only from public service, but also from the political arena. There's never going to be something that satisfies everybody and makes everybody go, okay, this makes sense, for a multitude of reasons. People are starting to hurt. And I know, going through the process of being a small business owner, we just launched, late last year. So obviously I'm still learning how this all works. We had achieved some level of success, and, really our main income being, salons and barbershops. Well, when the salons and barbershops closed down, that faucet got turned off. And obviously that has led our, the business aspect of it to struggle. I think that they have done a great, having the stimulus bill that passed, and obviously the act to get some more assistance in the unemployment department for people like me, for independent contractors, for those who are typically not eligible for unemployment. I think the theory of it was great. I know, going through the process of it, when you're really hoping for, I want to say, immediate relief, but you are hoping for, basically, we filled out our stuff, we sent our stuff in, and we have another 30 days to wait before we know if we get any money. And I think that's a struggle. I think you see these small businesses that are brick and mortars that are struggling. I think you're starting to see that transpire into some angst and some political, I don't know if it's unrest yet, but there's definitely, there's some movements that are out there where people are starting to make their voices heard about what they think about the current state of how the economy is doing, and that Wisconsin should open back up. So there's no right answer, and I'm interested to know what your feelings are on how the economy is going to progress in the state of Wisconsin, really to get through all of this, and then what's the other side look like?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll have the exact answer, and I apologize if you're hearing background noise. My daughter's obviously deciding to eat some lunch right now.
My kid's upstairs testing out a new weather radio we just got at Fleet Farm. I feel like Fleet Farm should sponsor this podcast. Feel free, jump on board. I plugged you twice.
I was blessed because I started my first legislative session in good times, good economic times, with an awesome budget and a surplus and a rainy day fund that was continuously growing, which obviously helps Wisconsin with this virus, and us being fiscally responsible with our dollars. Moving forward, now it's going to be extremely interesting seeing the impacts that this is going to have on our budget moving forward as a state, what the overall priorities are going to be, if there's going to be a shift, and we're going to, our focus is going to be on, okay, if this happens again, how are we going to prepare for it, and what are the priorities, and what does it truly look like moving forward? We're going to hurt. We are going to be hurting. I think all across the entire world is going to be hurting. Mm-hmm. But, primarily the United States with the stimulus packages that the package has passed, and now, more potentially coming. Mm-hmm. These are decisions that impact the future of our children. Mm-hmm. It's truly scary. I don't know if, I don't know what the right answer is. Throwing money at everything. Obviously, this is showing that, that old cliche saying that the money is what makes the world go round. Well, at some point we have to determine how much money we are going to throw at this. Right. And, for the sanity and the sanctity of our business owners, there, there just seems to be, and I'm just throwing my opinion out there, there seems to be a lack of logic and common sense when it comes to Madison. It's, in my opinion, I think it's truly scary that one person can control our life like it is being controlled. Our small businesses. I'm a small business owner myself, and we're being impacted by this. I think there are common sense, logical ways to approach things, whether it's on a regional basis, a county by county basis, whatever it looks like. We seriously need to come together, sit at the table, and determine what is in the best interest of Wisconsin.
Right.
Moving forward, let's just get through this set of hurdles, I should say, and ease some restrictions, because what happens in Milwaukee with their cases isn't what's happening to us locally.
Right.
And I take issue with that. And even what's happening here locally isn't happening in northern Wisconsin. So there's just, I think there's easier ways to look at things, and just one side is making all the choices and decisions. And I think collectively as a unit, we could be doing it all together. And the more people brought together, it can bring some chaos, but it brings different perspectives, different ideas. And that's the thing that bothers me the most, is there's a lot of issues that I've been trying to address within the 68th Assembly District. The unemployment benefits. That is my number one email that we get, is how come we can't get through? And my response is, I have some compassion and understanding, because the executive branch is the first time going through this as well.
Right.
And our governor, he comes from the world of education, school teaching, stuff like that. He's not very familiar with incident command systems and incident management and stuff like that. So you have to rely on the people around you. And that's even something where I'd reach out to him and say, Governor, you have people within the legislature that are familiar with these experiences, and we can bring our perspective and ideas in helping our law enforcement, fire, EMS people, our first responders that are going to these medical scenes, and be a part of that conversation. And I know that there's probably more highly trained people in his cabinet that have the answers too, but they may have the answers what apply to Madison, and not necessarily getting the rural northern Wisconsin perspective. And that's just where I battle the most. Is I've reached out, my office has reached out to the governor, asking for solutions, asking questions on behalf of the people, and trying to get the answers. And I think that's one of the biggest frustrations is I haven't heard back. And that's very frustrating for me as a legislator, when the people are expecting me to answer their questions and I'm trying to get the answers and I can't, and I'm not. And that's one of the biggest things I get yelled at about. I know for unemployment, they are adding personnel on down in the Department of Workforce Development. They're hiring people on to not only answer phones, but they're also hiring process claimers on the other side to meet the demand of the amount of unemployment filings that have been taking place. So there's things being worked on, and I guess that's the stuff that maybe not those answers aren't getting out to the people. But I'm hoping through social media or podcasts like this that the people listening will understand that this is a work in progress. And it is one of the biggest things that I've learned is when government wants things to go fast, they go fast. But if government takes their time in doing things, which is most of the common theme, that government moves slow, well, it also can move slow as well. So it's devastating for those that are still waiting. I just received an email last night from a beautician, a salon stylist, that she's still waiting she can't get through for unemployment. So them are the things that keep happening. And then, like you brought up, the meetings for those that are in recovery and those that are drug addicted or alcohol abusers, and how can we get those resources? And I think a lot of it's going to be through, most people have phones. I'm participating with this on my cell phone right now because my daughter was doing her schoolwork at the time on the computer downstairs. So there's ways that we can help those people, but they have to also be willing to do it and have the resources and seek those resources out through technology right now, because that's something that everybody seems to have. Well, not everybody, because broadband internet accessibility is an issue in our area as well. Right. So that's a whole different topic. But economically wise, it's we're going to be going through some hard times. Yeah. I'm going to say that straightforward. We're going to be hurting, and we're going to have to push through this together. But we have to start opening things up. We have, in a safe way. We all know how to do it. We've already proven that we can flatten the curve together. The same things can be done. Business owners are smart. Yeah. We have big box stores that are open, and they're even making modifications to their entrance and exit requirements. Well, our small business owners can do the exact same thing.
Right. I think that's been, I'll touch on some of the topics or the things that you brought up, from the unemployment angle of things. And I know it's a challenge for everybody right now. I have not only myself, family that's trying to figure this out, family, and everybody coming from kind of a different, trying to get regular unemployment benefits and trying to get, the PUL stuff that's out there now, and everybody looking for this extra, $600 that's supposed to be in there. Some are getting it, some are not. So I know there's a lot of angst right now towards that department, because I think it would have been fine had we been. I wouldn't have had any issue waiting. We basically mid-March, the faucet got shut off for my company, and I was like, okay, we will be able to kind of maintain for a bit, work on some new things. And I think that's, a lot of small business owners have been doing that, taking this time to kind of say, okay, we have some time now. We can kind of think of some new avenues, new ways to reach our clientele, really, for those maybe who aren't 100% tech savvy. Okay, well, let's look at learning something about the internet. I took some time to do some things with my podcast, as far as the live streaming stuff goes. But from the business part of it, there got to be a point where they said, okay, this, the Stimulus Act, the CARES Act that's out, here's how it's going to work. And there was a lot of waiting, and I understand. And I think, I don't want to say most people understand, but I think the average, the common person who puts thought into it goes, okay, they're having to implement a new back-end computer system into how this works, because it's completely different. And then you get to a couple of weeks and you go, they can hire some smart people. They have the capabilities to bring on some IT guys that can figure this out and to put this program into use. And then you get to the application process opening up for small business owners who have already been struggling, who've already had their finances dipping into savings, draining savings, trying to keep, their business so it can come out on the other end of this, go in and go through the process of applying, which it's not easy, but it's not the most difficult thing you'll probably have to face over the course of during this. And then you get, all right, well, it's going to be another month. And I think at that point, when we got that message that we'd done it all right, we went about it the right way, sent in our stuff, faxed it in, which, how difficult it is to find a fax machine. It's more challenging than you would think. It seems like they used to be on every street corner, like rotary phones. They used to be everywhere now, or pay phones. They used to be everywhere. Now you can't find one. But then to get a message back that says it's going to be another 4 weeks before not even before we have an answer, and so when you start to process that and you go, it's been 45 days, now we're into 75 days, and when you start to math out where you are sitting financially, not only for your business but also for your family, you go, it's unacceptable. I don't want to apply for unemployment. I want to be working my jobs and getting my stuff out there, working on new stuff, growing, looking at a brick and mortar, trying to, take my personal business to the next level. But unfortunately, that's not able to happen right now. So you run into that. You run into, I think, watching too much news, and you see, oh, look, Georgia just opened back up, or oh, Texas is opening back up tomorrow. So you even though smart you sitting by yourself and thinking about it says, I understand every area is different. I think we talked, like you talked about, there's a difference between, Dane County, and there's a difference between Chippewa County, Clark County. There's, differences in how the virus is spreading. But you see that and you're like, well, they get to go back to work. Here I am going, well, our account's about to run out of finances in a couple of weeks, and I don't see any, saving grace coming in to help us out. So I think that's where I think, when that turn happened, I think I started to watch, the protests happening in Madison about the open the state back up. I think a lot of these business owners, like you said, are very smart. We can figure it out. There's ways to make things happen. I mean, if you can walk into, Walmart and seemingly that's cool. I would question that even during non-COVID-19 times. Like, you probably should wash your cart down. Like, if you go to Walmart, you really just probably should do that. So yeah, there seems to be a lot of tension building. Do you feel that from your seat as well? That's there's both sides of the, hey, we should be staying at home, to those who say let's get things open back up. That there's some tension there.
Yeah, in the beginning there was several emails, well, hundreds of emails that come through saying support the flattening the curve efforts. Sure, I supported that. And that's what this whole process was about in the beginning. It was about flattening the curve, and then obviously we're continuing learning more and more about this moving forward. However, when on my birthday, happy birthday, when the governor extended the order to May 26th, which will be a day I won't ever forget, hundreds of emails flooded through within 24 hours. And if I recall correctly, I want to say there was less than a handful, and I want to say specifically 3, that said, please continue supporting this closure of our state. Please support this lockdown. And that's exactly what lockdown. Right. All the rest were, we need to get back to reality, get back to opening up our economy. Because just as I stated before, the money does make the world go round. Part of everything touches everything else. And right now we're hurting. Yeah. Everybody's hurting. And I think people are getting to their wits' end. Just for the record, I'd like to clarify something, because I was getting some emails over the weekend and into yesterday about how people were sending me emails and how disappointed they were in hearing about me going to the rally in Madison on Friday. Those people are wrong. I did not go to the rally on Friday. I was home here working on constituent. Those that people live in the 68th Assembly, there's things that I have to work on. There's a family in Chippewa right now trying to build, and they're battling with the DNR regarding wetland issues and stuff. I was working on that. And obviously I have a campaign to worry about as well. Right. And I was working on getting signatures, meeting people, those that would give me permission. So that was my Friday. My Friday wasn't spent in Madison. So that just bothers me when
Yeah.
people make that assumption.
Mhm.
I don't think that that's fair by any means. And yeah, there's a boiling point,
Mhm.
even internally in myself. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm truly reserving on what what is boiling up inside of me.
Right.
I'm getting to the point where enough's enough,
Mhm.
and this insults us as citizens, as human beings, thinking that we can't take this on ourselves, that we can't fight this COVID with all the safety parameters and restrictions and control measures, preventative measures, sanitizing, all these things. We went through an election, and I got slammed for the election on April 7th.
Right.
And now the studies are showing that, wow, our election really didn't compromise those in Wisconsin. Yeah, they said there's a few increased cases in Milwaukee, but overall, when we all united together and we made sure the safety was first and foremost for all those that chose to do in-person voting, I worked the polls. I cleaned the tables and the chairs after everybody voted. After every single person voted, we sanitized everything down. It was, the polls were cleaner than our Walmarts and Menards are and Woodman's. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
We can do this together. We can do this as responsible human beings, as citizens of Wisconsin, in a safe way and manner. And that's where I just find it so insulting that our governor thinks that we can't do this, or Secretary Designee Andrea Palm thinks that we can't do this. Our local county public health officials think that we can't do this.
Right.
And we can.
Yeah.
All of us can. I mean, it just gets me going. And see, I'm going to start going on a rant and a rave.
Don't get me started on the county health department. My son's birthday also was last week, and there's obviously he's 10 now, and as much as he's handled most of this situation very well, and it's been pretty easy to adapt. I mean, 10-year-olds think of birthdays differently than when you get really, kind of past 22. You're like, well, whatever. But there's not, you can't go to the park, you can't go to the trampoline park, you can't go to the arcade, you can't go to the pizza place. So the laundry list of things you can't have a bunch of friends over. You can't do the things that a 10-year-old wants to do on his birthday. So we had a parade. And there was a post out that I was tagged in that from the county health department that says, parades are considered unessential travel. And I said, I didn't say, but I thought in my mind very loudly, I said, I'm going to have this parade. I told the people that were in it, I'm like, hey, this, just so you know, this statement's out there, but we're going forward as planned to try to make the best of an unbright situation. And I said, I'm going to film it because I think it'd be cool to see, my kid having some happiness on his birthday. And I know there was 15, 20 cars that came by, and most of them were wearing masks. And I was like, I don't want to see my friends in the Altoona Police Department. I probably know who they are. I probably know if they were to swing by. I would probably tell my son that they were just here to add some ambiance to his parade. Like, look, the police showed up. How great is that? But no, I have some reserved thoughts about how it's being handled on a local level as far as the county health department, and a lot of the things that you stated, like there's the contradictions that are out there about what we can and can't do. I look at a lot of friends that have restaurants or in the restaurant industry or the bar industry. I'm like, these people are A+ at sanitizing. That's really what they have to do. So you add another couple layers to it, and you open some things up more. I mean, I'm really happy for the delivery and the curbside pickup. I think that's been a great addition. But you can't tell me that going to pick up something from a local restaurant is okay and considered essential travel if I have food in my house. But going to a parade for a 10-year-old is non-essential travel and therefore forbidden. I think we're smarter than we're given credit for at this point.
Well, you're familiar with the efforts of a local young lady that reached out to our health department. Are you familiar with her?
I'm not. Please.
Okay. So this is an issue that I'm taking on, and we did reach out to the governor's office on Friday for clarification, and asking for him to clear this up for our state, because there's a young lady that lives in close proximity to both of us that reached out to the county health department and provided an essay on how important it is for these teacher parades to take place so that the teachers can see their students and the mental health benefits of this taking place. And still, I personally don't understand on how, if you do a car parade and you're in your driveway, on how you could get contaminated. Maybe if somebody sneezed out their window at you or something, I don't know. This is the absurdity of this type of stuff, and this is why people are getting confused and basically ticked off because of these double standards that are being put in place. But this young lady reached out to the health department, and they responded back to her that they had collectively as a group decided, and mind you, this is the Eau Claire City County Health Department, that teacher parades would be considered essential for the educational and mental health purposes of the students. However, other parades, to include any kind of celebratory birthdays, anniversaries, etc., would still be considered non-essential and violating the safer at home order. So this is the type of decision making that's going on collectively as a group, and that's why people get confused, and that's why people get ticked off.
Right.
And actually, I put the email response on my representative Facebook page, and that has been the highest response out of any kind of shares that people have viewed it or stuff. I mean, the last time I checked, it was over 17,000 people had seen this, and the comments on there are heated.
Yeah,
they're very heated, because this is why people get ticked off, because those in government, and this is why people hate politicians. But mind you, these are the public health officials are unelected officials.
Right.
They're not even elected, making these decisions for the betterment of us in our community, but they don't make any sense.
Right.
And that's the problem. And so kudos to you. I did see the parade. My wife pointed out the parade of cars, and if I would have paid attention, I would have loved to have been a participant in that as well. Oop, did I just say that?
No, I didn't want to get you in trouble. I didn't want to throw the signs out there, but no, I think
I will confess, I've participated in birthday parades for people. I think it's very important. I think it is for the kids. It's very important.
It is. I think it's part of a, if it's a mental health thing and it's for the mental health of a student, of a child, I think having that same effect would be, from a closed window of a car, being able to see his aunts for the first time in 2 months, or to see his cousins for the first time since they closed school down. I think that could have some sort of mental health benefit for somebody on their birthday. But that's neither here nor there. And we did it. And I think people also are getting part of that confusion and rage comes from is people will see this post by the county health department. They'll see the response that you posted. They'll turn on the nightly news and they'll see the one heartwarming story they show during a 22-minute news broadcast is a great story about a kid who had a birthday and how a bunch of people got together and police and fire and everybody drove by their house and waved and made them signs, and they go, wait a minute. So here in Ithaca, it's like this heartfelt, oh man, community strong thing. But here in our area, it's like that is non-essential. So people are just, they're confused. They don't know. And when you are confused and when there's two things that don't add up, you go, well, I like to raise my hand and start to question who's making these choices for us, because nobody wants decisions made for them in the first place. They want the groundwork laid out and let people fortify their own homes and their own businesses and do as free Americans should be able to do. And now when down to the silliest things like don't drive by my house in a choreographed line You can drive to Walmart in a choreographed line. Just don't happen to be driving down a residential area. Otherwise, that's non-essential. Maybe they were all going to the same store. Who knows?
Okay.
That was
hypothetical theories.
That was going to be my story. So we
Amen.
we are into getting into the end of April here, into May. So a month and a half or so, as we have been through, in another month or so, a little less, according to the current standard of things. Watching the protesters, and yes, Jesse was not there. He was not there on Friday, so stop thinking that he was. He doesn't have a doppelganger down there hanging out on the streets with signs. So, but what is anything going to change the current stay-at-home order for May 26th? Are we, those who are down there, those who are pushing the envelope, those who are like me, who are really starting to lean heavy into this? There's, as much as I want to protect my friends and neighbors and the elderly and the rest of the population as a concerned citizen and human of Earth, we're getting to dire times, and it's not going to, as the days go by, it's not going to progressively get better should this stay-at-home order continue until the end of the month. Is there any out, or are we locked until the end of next month?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. So the governor had issued his order as the governor under the emergency management statute, which is chapter 323. And that's where a lot of people online are still asking about why the legislature wouldn't go in and rescind his 60-day order by joint resolution. And yes, we could still do that, but it's not going to accomplish anything, because he saw what was on the horizon and has now given Secretary Designee Andrea Palm all the authority under her chapter, which she is authorizing under Chapter 252. Well, there's no 60 days and stuff like that for her. So this is where the lawsuit that was recently filed, well, last week it was filed, and I think that the governor has till today to file a brief with the Supreme Court, which means basically his response to the Republicans filing this. And people need to remember, they say, it's political and stuff. Well, yeah, it is political. However, the actions that we are taking are on behalf of the people, on behalf of you, on behalf of myself, on behalf of all those families that are affected, that are small business owners, that are business owners, period. Right. The farmers, our students. Yeah. I mean, our UW Eau Claire, all these students, we're representing the people by trying to get clarification. And I'm going to put it as simple as possible. So Secretary Designee Andrea Palm is governing or issuing these orders, like her Order 31 about the Badger bounce back plan. Yeah. So that was her. She issued that under Chapter 252, and extending the extension to May 26 was also, let me double check. That was, I want to say that was her order as well, because she signs the bottom of these. And I know 31, the Badger bounce back plan is hers. So basically what that means is you have an unelected official that has more power than our governor, than the legislative. So the governor represents the executive branch, the legislature, who is the legislative branch, and then you have the judicial branch. So all three branches of our state government have no say in the orders that she is putting out there. Now, she does have authority, and she can govern public health issues. Like, for example, and this is what I commonly say, it's more meant at the local level to get the state resources into, if Altoona School District ended up having a chicken pox outbreak.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would be something that our public health department would be involved with, but they'd also probably bring in the state so that they could declare a state of an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
And the secretary designate, or the DHS secretary, who's currently Andre Palm, could issue that state of emergency for that specific local public health emergency.
Mm-hmm.
What we're trying to find out, and we're asking for clarification from the Supreme Court ruling, is with the administrative rule process to define the intent of our state statute that exists, to see if she does have that type of power
mm-hmm.
to basically control our whole state.
Wow.
And she doesn't answer. She answers. I mean, she's unelected, so she doesn't answer to the people. That's the problem. Our government, the governor always uses this phrase, and I've used this recently in every single email almost that I send out to the people. He always says in his speeches, if you listen to it, the will of the people is the law of the land. Well, that's exactly the truth.
Right.
That's how our constitutions were formed, the state and U.S. Constitution. It's about the will of the people. My question would be, is Andrea Palm truly representing the will of the people right now? And that's what we're basically asking the Supreme Court to rule on. Right. It's on behalf of the people. It's not a political partisan thing. It's not a Republican versus Democrats. We're just asking for clarification to see, because if she does have this much power, we're all in trouble.
Yeah.
Because this could be extended on indefinitely, and every single rule or every single order that goes forward, she could do anything and everything.
Yeah.
And this could go into next year.
Yeah.
And that's scary. And that's why I think we have a right to ask those questions and to ask for clarification. I think that's very fair. And it's part of process to protect the people. Yeah. And it's really that simple. I just explain in normal terms so that people can understand what we are truly trying to do. And I think it's very valid. I think it's a valid point. I think we do need clarification, because that's why, like, we as a legislature, we can take action against the governor, but as a legislature, we can't take any action against Andrea Palm, because there's nothing that says that we can.
Right.
And that's very concerning.
I think, thank you for breaking that down in that manner, because I think that what happens is people read a headline, or they see a headline, or they hear a news story, and it's obviously everything is written for clickbait now. They want you to read the whole story. It's all based on monetizing the back end. But they read something, and obviously, yes, it says Republicans, and it makes it clearly attempts to make it political. And I think that there is when you understand what the intent is and the logic behind it, and what you're trying to get clarification on, because it's something that I would have never known until you just explained it to me. I would have been like, well, yeah, she's probably got some sort of, oh no, she has the con right now. And that's, I think, as somebody who votes for elected officials, as a populace, as a country who votes for elected officials, you want to know that the people that you elect into said office are in charge of making decisions. And if that person makes questionable decisions, that other branches of the government are able to intervene and have not even intervene at this point, inquire and want full understanding of what's going on. That those, that's how the machine runs. That's how the gears fit into place, and that's how the people are protected and their rights are protected. And when you're in the midst of a pandemic and everybody's looking for answers and an out, and when is this going to, I don't want to say end, but what is the next phase? How can we implement some new ways of doing business that are that makes sense logically, that maybe makes sense more long term. We just want to know, and I think there's when you have confusion, and you're seeing this in Wisconsin, I think you're seeing this in many other states that are going through this. People are confused, and they're starting to run out of money, and their families are starting to be severely affected by this, whether that's financially, that's mental health wise. Nobody wants to sit at home all day. Nobody wants to be trapped inside the walls of their house. I think you start to want answers, and when those answers are met with, I want to say a too bad, so sad, mass response from those who are on the cameras and in charge. But if it's not the answer that really helps you, okay, now I have some clarity. Now I know that this is this. Here, I know that I'm going to be able to make it till here, and then I can wait for another answer. When those aren't happening, people start to get antsy, and when people get antsy, they start to protest. And when those protests, again, if they fall on deaf ears, this becomes a different issue. This makes the issue at hand even worse if we get to a point where people are outraged to a point of, I don't want to say, bad things, but you start taking away people's rights and freedoms and now money, and that's all of those things that we worked for, all of the rights that we have as citizens, and we're not able to pursue them. Things can get heated really quickly.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. And we're already in the midst of one as well. So, Jesse, I'm going to let you go on this, but thank you for all the time and stuff. I think, here, you can come and say hi. We dropped your name a couple times.
Hello.
Hi, how are
This
you?
guy.
Good.
He still has...
I just got this new radio. It's super duper cool.
Went to one of those big box
The
stores
weather
and picked it
radio.
up. It's okay. We hand sanitized after we got out. Yeah. Still, again,
I love it.
Still has the sign. Still's got the sign in his room, man. He's representing. But you have a lot of stuff going on, I know. But people can follow you on Facebook and also your website. What we're going to do is we'll put those in the show notes of the podcast. So if you're listening to this on whatever platform, just open up the details part of the podcast, and you'll be able to link directly from your mobile device or wherever you're listening, and go and see some of the posts Jesse's put up. Some great informational stuff that you've put up. The sharing of the response was great. I saw that the other day too in my post parade triumph. I'm like, it happened. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
amen.
But no, thank you for the time and for clarifying a lot of things and kind of helping us have a little more understanding of what's going on that political arena of how we're going to get out of this, and hopefully, man, that last statement you made, man, my mind is just going in a million different directions right now with what's happening in Madison. So I appreciate your time, man. It means a lot, and I know that those listening are going through all the same stuff and needed some answers. So you provided them, and I thank you for that.
Mayor Cooper, hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. A lot of good stuff there. Jesse James, 68th District Representative, the state of Wisconsin, on the Welcome to Cooperville podcast. I thank you for listening. Hopefully you gained some knowledge out of that. You know some more things. You're able to kind of decipher exactly, well, maybe a little bit more of what's going on. I think we're all kind of still living in a land of confusion. That sounds like a Genesis song. But alas, thank you, Jesse, for joining the show. You can follow the show, by the way, on all of our social media platforms. We are everywhere, including on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're on Twitch at No Limit Cooper. Also, my personal Instagram page at No Limit Cooper. I post my weird, crazy life that I live. But the podcast also is everywhere. And thank you for listening on whichever podcast platform you are on. Remember, if you subscribe, you will get updates every time we drop a new episode. Leave a comment. That would be awesome. Let us know what you think. We love feedback, constructive criticism, whatever it is you got. Leave it on the comment section of the podcast on your preferred platform. Until next time, the elbow thing. We'll do a forearm smash because we can't quite embrace it just yet. But thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. Stay safe. Be well. Until next time.